Teachers must take a lot of factors into consideration when planning courses. Under the umbrella of teaching core competencies, teachers must address each of the curricular competencies and content learning standards throughout the school year or semester. For some learning standards, typically curricular competencies, teachers can choose to teach the students how to accomplish the learning target through any course-related subject that they want.
For example, in Chemistry 11, teachers have to teach students how to make observations aimed at identifying their own questions, including increasingly abstract ones about the natural world, formulate multiple hypotheses and predict multiple outcomes, collaboratively and individually plan, select, and use appropriate investigation methods, including fieldwork and lab experiments, to collect reliable data. With these curricular competencies, the teachers have a lot of freedom on the content that they teach. That's to say, the teachers aren't limited to teaching this through one specific unit.
On the other hand, students must also know the quantum mechanical model and electron configuration, and the solubility of molecular and ionic compounds. With these content pieces, the content is much more specific, so the teacher can't be as creative as they can with the curricular competencies.
This is why teachers try to make groups of content and curricular competencies that go well together, and then organize them into units. This should be done at the beginning of the year to ensure that no learning targets are missed.
In each specific unit, the teachers try to make smaller groups of curricular competencies and content that they think would fit well together in specific lessons and activities. For example, the teacher could address all three of the curricular competencies mentioned earlier, make observations aimed at identifying their own questions, including increasingly abstract ones about the natural world, formulate multiple hypotheses and predict multiple outcomes, collaboratively and individually plan, select, and use appropriate investigation methods, including fieldwork and lab experiments to collect reliable data, while also including these in an activity about the solubility of molecular and ionic compounds. As you might have guessed, we suggest that this can be done through a lab exercise. The advantage of labs in terms of planning for a course is that labs have the capacity to address many different learning outcomes in just one activity. However, the restriction is that labs often take a lot of time and maybe some extra resources, so it might not be feasible to plan a lab for every single class in the semester. Instead, teachers should use the best labs, which are the most effective and efficient at using a variety of learning targets and core competencies, and schedule the labs accordingly.
When the teacher has made an outline for each unit, they then need to go into each lesson and make a plan for them as well. In the case of labs, several things need to be done before, because you can't simply jump into a lab without any prep.
In a specific lab lesson, the teacher must consider the safety of their students. This includes giving students the proper information about the equipment and materials that they are using, and also teaching the students proper lab conduct. In the cases of some upper-level science courses, the chemicals and materials that they use in the lab could be dangerous, and so it is vital that the teacher knows all of the components and possible safety risks involved with the lab and gives that information to the students. Please note that WHMIS labels are typically a good source to go to if you are concerned about the equipment or unfamiliar with the components of the lab. Additionally, teachers must consider other factors such as time restraints, as in setup time, takedown time, what equipment they might be using, and they have to see if anything has to be started before class begins. All of these are essential for a good lab experience.
In a study titled Effectiveness of Lab Work in and Out of Schools, a study was done comparing the effectiveness of labs solely in school, mixed outside of school and in school, as well as labs done solely outside of the school.
Outside of the school just means like outdoor field trips or just going to like a research study or a local museum even. And believe it or not, once the study was conducted, they actually found out that students' emotion, willingness to learn, and knowledge retention was all better in solely outside labs. So this is something big to take into account when you're making lesson plans, as the more you can get outside, the better it is for your students.